Hello and welcome to another episode of Tea Time with Meoni. This is where I get to sit down and talk to you guys as if you were in the room with me because I can't live stream. This is a problem that's going to be occurring quite a bit, and I wouldn't imagine it to be fixed anytime soon. There's been lots of delays, lots of issues, and honestly lots of lies from various people on the ISP side. So we're just going to not talk about that because it just makes me depressed to think about. So without further ado, let's talk about something positive, something that's coming just around the corner, something tangible, something I'm actually excited for that's actually going to deliver, I hope. So that's 5.2. Obviously, we have like a little bit of information on 5.2 now, but I want to really share my own opinions with some of the things on this list of items that we're getting in 5.2. These specific points of things we're getting, this nice juicy content. So obviously we have another live letter to go for, right? That starts on Thursday, and we're going to have lots of footage for that. We're going to have obviously a summary from that, and probably, a couple other videos talking about what they say in it, because, we all know that they're going to be dropping some very interesting juicy pieces, because it will be the second part of the 5.2 patch information dump. So what do we have already? So we have main scenario quest. Well, that's kind of a point at this point. The next part of Eden's verse. So we're getting the next part of the Eden raid. That's going to be great. That's going to last a little bit of time. There's going to be gear to go for in there. There's going to be different bosses. It'll be interesting to see what we get. I've always been entertained by seeing it the first week and seeing how people react to mechanics, and then obviously working overtime on my healer to try and keep them all up, and basically being a res bot for that first couple of weeks. And it's always quite fun, especially when we first saw Titan in his form on Eden. Now, obviously, I've not been able to clear anything other than the first part of the previous Eden raid on Savage, simply because my static dissolved into nothingness. I am hoping to resurrect that. We are actually looking for a DPS, but you have to play on Chaos Data Center. And in fact, what I'll do, instead of me talking about that, I'm just going to actually link the Discord below in the description. If you want to be a part of that, it's got a role select system now. You go on there, you just do your, question mark, rank, space, and then viewer with a capital V, and then you have access to the Discord, and then you can go and look at the various things we're talking about, including the recruitment for our new static raid team. And all of the information will be there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the raid. It's going to be exciting. It'll be fun to, try out some new content with friends again. Hopefully this time we can get a bit further. The last static we were in wasn't exactly up to par, but that doesn't matter. We had a lot of fun for the most part. And I know we can go much further than that this time around. There's lots of people that have dipped out, lots of new faces. And like I say, we are still actively recruiting for that. So if we were to speculate what the bosses would be, so if we were to go anything by the Thirst Wing, which would be a terrible idea because it probably won't follow precedent, but let's say they had two fights which were, new original concepts, so maybe like we did with the previous tier where we had, essentially a mini Eden and then the woman and a giant robot, which are quite unique. So we can't really speculate what they're going to be, but we can certainly guess what the second two might be. Or all four of them, or maybe even the first two might be elemental related primals from the past. Already we've had a sneak peek in one of the live letters that we're going to be facing off against none other than, a different version of Ramu. So lightning related, potentially. Yeah, so that one's kind of in the bag. As to how they're going to do that, it's another question entirely. I mean, what will the Warrior of Light remember from the fight against Ramu? Other than the balls and the static that prevents you from moving and all of that. Oh, yes, that'll probably make a return. But what is the other boss? What is that other primal fight? I'm hoping it's going to be something like Ifrit or something basic like that, because there's a lot you could do with fights like that. Can you imagine a new version of an Ifrit fight if a Warrior of Light was to remember it? The screen would be just filled full of nails to destroy. That's all it would be. It would be just 20 minutes of you fighting nails and nothing more, and avoiding like 60 different fire explosions. That's fairly realistic when you think about it. So I don't know, what else could we have? We've had Leviathan now. Maybe Moogle? Maybe Good King Moogle Mog? I know it's not really an element, but it could kind of work. So you'd have like 20 different Moogles, all of them have different names, and all of them have different buffs and identities, and you have to figure out which one to kill first, in a particular order, whilst avoiding 60 mechanics. That could be quite fun, and I'm sure as a little gimmick that could be incredible, but, you know, it's not the sort of thing we'll actually get. But imagine if we could, how annoying that would be. We might as well just create our own calamities at this point, because that is just nightmare fuel, isn't it? So what else have we got in 5.2 to be excited about? We've got the Chronicles of New Era, the Sorrow of Werlight, which is the new Four Lords, if you were to compare it to something, series of trials. The first of which is Ruby Weapon. I really hope that they go with the whole Ruby, Emerald, Diamond sort of thing, like have all of the weapons together. That would be absolutely amazing. Being a Final Fantasy VII fan, and you know, a lot of you guys are as well, if you've been talking with us recently about the remake in the past couple of episodes. But my goodness, the idea of Ruby Weapon is probably enough to get a lot of new people to actually come to the game and a lot of people to come back. The idea that we might be fighting something as annoying and as epic as Ruby Weapon. However, it doesn't kind of look really that much like Ruby Weapon, so we'll have to see where that's going. I personally have my fingers crossed for a desert fight with, you know, tentacles underneath the floor sort of thing, underneath the sand, but it doesn't kind of look that way. But yeah, it is an epic looking model from the small images that we get to look at. But yeah, I'm very excited for that series of raids. So yeah, that's good. So we've got a main raid, we've got a new Chronicles of Era series of, you know, new trial series. We have one new dungeon. Now this is going to be the precedent going forward. Apparently, we're getting one new dungeon per major patch, as opposed to two. So usually we have like a story mode dungeon and then one that's like a hard mode of something from the past, right? Well, this time we're having Amnesis and Nida, which is a brand new dungeon for the storyline. This will be trust enabled from the start, and of course you'll be able to go through that and enjoy the storyline, and then you'll also be able to go with that with normal matchmaking as well. I'm not sure what you guys think about not having a second dungeon in this patch. Personally, it's something that takes away a little bit from the expert roulette. I do feel that it's going to sort of lack a little bit. Already we feel like we have less dungeons than we do in the previous expansions at this sort of point. So I'm interested to see what they do with that extra time and budget, whether or not they're going to put more effort into just the one dungeon, or if they're going to be using those assets externally for other things. There's a few other things on this 5.2 list that could definitely require more money investment. We do actually have the new Beast Tribe quests in 5.2 to look forward to, and this is the Kitari. So this is going to be really fun. This is going to be the gathering related Beast Tribe. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure if it was gathering and crafting. I think it was just gathering, right? But yeah, that's going to be exciting. I do enjoy all of the Beast Tribes in the past. These are basically the dog people. This is basically a group of Kikirin, but they're Kitari because obviously we're in the thirst and not the source. So yeah, what kind of mount could we get from this sort of Beast Tribe? So I don't know, maybe a carriage again, maybe something completely unrelated. I mean, if you remember, the fairies gave us a pig, so it could be anything. I'm really excited. I always get excited to see what the final reward is from a Beast Tribe. Perhaps we might actually see that this Thursday during the next live letter. They usually give us little hints here and there. It depends whether or not they're going to spoil everything or if they're going to just hold back on everything. They kind of switch between those two moods depending on what month it is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rewards from this new Beast Tribe. The idea of gathering, though, doesn't really bother me. The new gathering system is actually pretty good. It can be a bit snorefest in places, but that's mostly due to the simplicity of it compared to how we used to have to deal with gathering rotations and bits and pieces. It's a lot more, simple to see on your screen. The UI is wonderful, and I think they've done a really good job of getting new people interested in gathering and crafting with all of the changes in the 5.1 series. So, and I understand that they're going to be doing more in 5.2. That's another bullet point here, is crafting and gathering overhaul. So they're going to be streamlining stuff even more. And what a great time to do it when we're actually having a beast tribe all about gathering. So yeah, all for that. I'm looking forward to that wholeheartedly. So the resistance weapon quest is this bullet point. Now, I presume this is the new relic for combat classes. We do know that gatherers and crafters are getting some form of like relic type thing in the future. I presume the resistance weapon stuff is actually your new relic for combat roles, but again, it's not very clear here. So it could be either. But yeah, the next relic quest should start. We should see some more information on the next relic quest in this patch. So that in itself is quite a big deal. I always look forward to a relic. It does seem, I suppose it's not earlier than the previous relics we've had, like with Eureka. It just feels maybe a little bit sooner, but then you forget that there's going to be multiple stages of those sort of relic quests, and it'll be interesting to see what exactly they do with it. There's no Eureka on this bullet point. There's no Eureka style content as far as I can tell on this bulleted list. So fingers crossed maybe that we get a different form of relic quest and maybe open world stuff. So we'll have to wait and see. But I don't imagine they'll really go into the full development of such a weapon until maybe like 5.3 or something like that. So this will probably just be, your basic stock weapon or something, and a little bit of an intro to that. Who knows at this point? It's all speculation. But I'm looking forward to a new relic. It's going to be fun. I always like looking at the backstory behind the names they give them. I don't know if that's something that people would be interested in, but there's a lot of information on Wikipedia. If you just type in the name of any of the old weapons, you can get some really interesting connotations that make sense for the design of the weapon. I might do that as a separate video because it's quite a fun idea that everything actually has some meaning behind it, and these things aren't just randomly named or randomly designed. They all have a particular design brief and a reason for why they look like they do and the name they're given. So that might be something to look at in the future. The obvious example would be Excalibur, but there are so many other references for other material in pop culture and history that have been employed into all of these weapons so far. So again, with this, we have another bullet point for the Ishgard restoration updates. I'm looking forward to this. I want to see what they can do next with that technology. Maybe, this is my big theory at the minute. With the recent Valentine's Day event, we had the voting system where, in a couple of weeks, we're going to get the results of that, and there's going to be a specific cutscene depending on who got the most votes per server. So you actually see the cutscene dependent on who you hand in your quest to on what server that actually won the votes. It's really interesting to me that should come at a time just before the Ishgard restoration stuff. It feels to me like everything we see in its primitive form usually gets evolved and repackaged and repurposed for use in other technology once it's been sort of beta tested on live servers. This is something that doesn't impact anything really. It just changes a cutscene slightly, but it's a good way of testing that sort of voting system. I personally believe, and I would probably put money on this, that they will reuse that technology for the Ishgard restoration and have some form of public community vote for the progression of that restoration in the future. Perhaps maybe a building is different per server based on votes. How cool would it be if you could vote on the role of a particular building that you're restoring? For example, you build a big building and you could vote to have that as a tavern or as a washroom, a spa or something like that. And then at the end of the next week afterwards, they collect those votes, and that particular server now has a spa and washroom, rather than Louis' server might have a big tavern in the style of Seventh Heaven from Final Fantasy VII. These are all my exotic thoughts of things you could do, and it just seems that this technology is in such a primitive form, this voting system for Valentine's, that it would make sense to have that used elsewhere, and I can't think of a better place than to have player votes actually matter for the restoration of something minor, but in long run give people the sense that they've actually contributed towards something unique for their own server. And that could be really quite fun. I don't know what you guys think. I would imagine most people would vote for the most fun option of the two. But if they're as clear cut as having a really cool tavern to hang out in, or a big spa. I'm pretty sure it would be even across the board. Although I guess most people would choose the spa option, if we're honest, especially on servers like Balmung. So as we move past Ishgard Restoration and the idea that they might give it something a little bit fresher, a fresh boost in the arm, what are the things that we could see from that? Well, obviously we'll see a new district unlocked. We'll have timed quests related to that and timed turn-ins of various new materials. There'll be lots of new crafts and materials added, but there should be new stuff added to those script vendor as well. So presumably there'll be some new mount, maybe some new minions, maybe some new glamour. It's going to be the hub of basically all of my time investment. It's not something I necessarily prioritize above other things, but if there's a minion involved or a new piece of glamour, you can bet that I'll be there on day one all the way through. But yeah, I look forward to the Ishgard Restoration, regardless of what they do, because it's something different, and it's definitely something risky that not everybody in the community will enjoy, and it's really up to them to gauge those responses and develop it based on that feedback, which hopefully people are going to the forums and actually giving them, as opposed to just raging on Reddit where, it doesn't actually do anything. It's like shouting into a void. You're not going to get anywhere unless you talk constructively to people in general in life. So developers are no different. Other things on this list include ocean fishing. This is actually something I'm really excited about. We've talked about this more in my personal Discord in the voice channel over the past couple of weeks, more than anything else in the entirety of these patch notes. People are speculating how this will work. Going on a particular, all we have at the minute is information that you sort of meet up in a certain area, I believe in Limsalam Insert, you go to a dock, a boat comes at a certain time, you get on there, and then it's kind of like a separate instance where you have to do fishing, and then you get rewards based on, the progression of everyone there. So it's quite a community-based event. It looks interesting, but we haven't got really that much on it. But it is still the most exciting thing on this list for me personally. Anything that gets people involved community-wise for something as arbitrary as fishing, but for rewards, is excellent. I really commend Square Enix when they come up with ideas like this, because it's not something that you necessarily sit down as a Western developer or publisher and go, what content shall we put in next? Oh, I know. Let's just put in this dungeon and stuff. It's like, meanwhile, at Square Enix, what can we put in our game? Ocean fishing! We can have people fish, and then the biggest fish there gives a better reward, and then it procs this thing where there's like a fishing bonanza, and everybody gets a buff to their fishing yield, and then suddenly there's mounts and minions. Yes, hire that man. That man is a genius. Yes, I absolutely, 100% wholeheartedly cannot wait for ocean fishing, and I hope it has some fun rewards, because inevitably, the more people we can get involved in doing that stuff, the better this game will be. If you can make ocean fishing an endgame pastime, then my hat would be firmly off to you, Square Enix. I cannot wait. The idea of just grouping up with a load of strangers, somebody maybe playing bard music whilst we're fishing or something like that, I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. And of course, we have New Game Plus updates, which they haven't talked about, which at this point, we're presuming that that's the 2.0 stuff, because currently in New Game Plus in the game, you can't toggle to anything before Heavensward, so maybe we'll get those A Realm Reborn quests. They do say that they've been spending the better part of 6 to 7 months redesigning and reworking on all of those quests to make the entire leveling experience a lot smoother, and a lot of stuff is getting pulled out. A lot of the busy work of back and forth, and a lot of the arbitrary quests are being pulled out as well. So it might be a good time for people to perhaps play through some of those quests, because a lot of them might be gutted. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be on the cutting room floor after they're done to save on time for your investment, and sort of like a big thing in the way of them getting to max level or getting through that content, so they have to cut it. It reminds me of a World of Warcraft situation where they redesigned the leveling experience with something like Cataclysm, where they hated their own content so much, they decided to literally blow up zones and add new quest people there instead. It's a lot of time and money and effort, and I think it's on a different scale here, right? They're just cutting out some of the bits here and there. But no matter what they cut out, there is always going to be somebody that's affected by this that remembers a certain quest or a certain NPC that will be just, relegated from that quest line. So it'll be interesting to see if they make any of that stuff that would take too much time, maybe add that as side quests, or if any of that dialogue is going to be, added to NPCs when you're not on the quest to talk to them, sort of thing, or if it's just going to be cut entirely. So it might be worth, us actually looking at this when 5.2 comes out, maybe doing a New Game Plus playthrough just to see what has changed. Obviously, that's speculation. We have no confirmation that the 2.0 stuff is being reworked for this patch. We just know it's being reworked and that we have a New Game Plus updates list added to a bullet point. And that's pretty much all of the bullet points we have so far until Thursday when we get more information on this. So that was pretty much all we could talk about. But that's my personal excitements, my personal opinions on certain content. I don't really get time to sit down and talk through any of these lists in sort of any length anymore. So this is a great opportunity. But let me know what you think about this. What are you most excited for? And conversely, what are you excited for that's not on this list that you think might be there on that Thursday's live letter? Either way, be sure to check out my summary video, which will be on that same day, about 1 hour or so after the release of that live letters, like when it ends. I will have that up on YouTube for you in a nice bite-sized manner. And if there's anything else to talk about or any other information, we'll have separate videos for that as well. But thank you kindly for watching this video and listening wherever you are in the world. Enjoy the rest of your day or night, and I'll see you all next time.